Good morning. It's 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday, December 8th, 2023. This morning I moved the sheep, set up a cross wire in the sheep pen, start training them on wire with the dogs. All the dogs came across except Hindu. I had to lift him up and move him. So that was kind of annoying. But last night I had a brilliant idea, a plan you might say. But first, let's kind of go over the bookkeeping. So we're in the sixth cell of this fourth row. This evening we'll be in the last cell. And then tomorrow morning we'll move them to a new row. So just to the south here. Rows are about 2 chains long. That's about 130 feet. For those of you who like things in feet. I don't know how many meters that is, but you can pull out a calculator and do the work yourself. Anyway. Grass here is pretty decent and it's going pretty well. So brilliant idea number one, have the bulls lead the cows by 2.5 weeks, because we're basically on a 5-week rotation, right? So 180 degrees out of phase, that's 2.5 weeks. Okay, that will keep them always about 700 feet away from the cows at the minimum, right? Brilliant idea number two, roll out the hay for the bulls. That way the bulls will have plenty to eat and they will not, basically they will not destroy the grass, hopefully. And brilliant idea number three is when the cows come by 2.5 weeks later, roll out some more hay. I did some calculations. If I do this, by the time April rolls around, I'll have about 5 bales of hay left. I'm saving some for my neighbor. I don't know how much he's going to use, but let's suppose that I'm going to come out short for whatever reason. Well, I can just stop rolling hay out for the bulls, or maybe there's a road that has a lot of grass. I just won't roll out hay there, you know. Anyway, a couple of good comments people have had about what to do when you don't have grass. Kind of like right now. So, you know, it's really easy to do rotational grazing in the spring when your biggest complaint is that you have to basically swim through the grass and you can't see the wires because the grass is too tall. And it's hard to get the cows to move the new section because there's so much grass to leave behind, right? Everybody can rotationally graze in the spring, right? Assuming you get spring grass, that your field isn't completely dead, right? The issue is, what do you do in those periods where you don't really have grass? And there's 3 times in the year where you're not going to have grass. The first time is in between spring and summer. And I'm talking about my climate. I'm not talking about your climate. You guys are all different. So you think about what your seasons are like and what the grass looks like at various times of the year. Okay, so for me, in between spring and summer, there's kind of a period where the grass stops growing. It just turns brown. And I'm waiting for the summer grass to come in. And it seems like the summer grass always comes in a little too late. It just takes a little long to get started. And it comes in a little late, right? Once it does come in, it's fantastic and wonderful. I can graze for half the year without really thinking about it, because the summer grass just keeps growing. It just keeps on trucking. It's good stuff, right? The other time of the year is in between summer and autumn, although this isn't that big of a deal, especially not this year, when the summer grass stops growing and the spring grass has yet to come in, or the cool season grass has yet to come in. And so I'm kind of in that phase here. But if you look at the grass here, it looks like summer grass is still growing. It's about 70 degrees today. It's about 70 degrees right now. It'll get to like 72 in the afternoon. Cloudy, humid. It's basically summertime right now for most people in the world. But we're in December. We're not halfway through December. We're 1/3 of the way through December almost. So that's really not that big of a deal. The bigger deal is that autumn doesn't really grow that much grass, right? And then the last period of time when you don't have grass is in the winter, right? When I don't have grass is in the winter. And what sucks about winter is it's not really cold. I mean, we do get cold snaps. We get like a snowstorm that'll blow through from time to time, or ice rain, an ice storm, right? We had an ice storm back in February of last year, and last year around December 20th, we had a big snowstorm, right? Where everything froze. It got down to like 10 degrees. and everything froze, right? Everything froze. And I had to break up the pond just so the cows could get water, right? So, but most of the time it's like in the 50s, 60s. It's not that bad, right? We don't really run the heater that much, except when it's very cold outside. All right, so what do you do, right? And there's basically two schools of thought. There's three schools of thought. Number one, don't graze at all. Stop grazing, put the cows in a pen, and just lock them up and throw away the key, right? That's kind of the weird answer. Then there's the answer, you graze faster or you graze slower, right? If you graze more slowly, the cows spend more time or put more pressure on a single point of ground, right? And they come back to it more often. Or you can do where you just give them very little ground and they basically just scalp whatever's left. They just basically consume whatever they can eat, and whatever's left is whatever's left, right? So I guess that's two different methods. One method is you rotate quickly with small pieces of ground. The other one is rotate slowly with small pieces of ground, right? And then the third option is you basically rotate average speed, a few times, right? Which kind of feels like you just ignore that it's winter outside and you just keep going, And then in all the cases above, you're gonna have to feed the cow something, right? And the obvious first choice is hay. Hay tends to be a lot cheaper than feed, and by a lot I mean like a lot. It's like several $1,000s you'll save feeding hay versus feed most years. Last year was kind of an exception because hay prices shot up, and it was only slightly more expensive to buy feed than hay, right? That's kind of the limiting factor on hay. Hay can't get more expensive than feed, right? Because if feed is the same price as hay, people are just going to use feed, right? Because feed kind of, what's the right way to put it? Feed is kind of like gourmet food for the cows, right? And especially in the wintertime when they need energy, it's kind of the ideal solution, right? Anyway, so hay, feed, you feed them. And there's good things and bad things, but if you're going to move your cows through the pasture, then the thing that you have to be careful of is not scalping the grass. If you munch your grass down to the dirt, right? When springtime comes, all the grass is going to be behind by several weeks. It's going to take a long time for it to catch up to where it's supposed to be, and then it's going to start growing, right? And if you keep munching on the grass, you don't give it a chance to grow, you won't have any grass, even in springtime, right? So the grass grows in phases. When it's very short, it grows very slowly. Then it gets to kind of the teenage phase where it grows rapidly. And then it becomes an adult and it starts to build seeds, right? And stops growing, right? You want to keep the grass out of the seed phase and out of the baby phase as much as possible. Because in the baby phase, nothing's happening. It's not growing very much. And in the seed phase, it's not growing very much, right? And so just from a mathematical, logical perspective, you don't want to get your grass down to the ground, right? And so my philosophy right now, the principle that I've been focusing on this whole year, and what I don't want to stop doing right now, right? My principle this year is the focus is leave lots of grass behind, right? Leave lots of grass behind. That's my philosophy, right? And if I can't leave lots of grass behind, because you have to have something to do if you can't do what you want to do. You have to have a plan. Like if you plan to stop drinking booze, you need to have a plan on how to stay away from booze, right? So my plan is to leave lots of grass behind. So I have to have a plan on what to do if I can't do that. So this is the last pasture. Okay, by comparison, that's what it looked like. Now this is what it looks like, okay? Would I consider this lots of grass being left behind? That's the question I have to ask myself, okay? And if the answer is no, then I have basically two options. Take them off the land altogether, pin them up, okay? Or I have to rotate with more land. I have to rotate more quickly, right? Now, if I were to come back tomorrow and graze this again, I would kill the grass. It would die, right? I wouldn't have any grass in the spring, or very little, right? So I have to give this grass a chance to recover. And my decision for winter and fall is 5 weeks. I'm not going to come back to this spot of ground with the cows until 5 weeks from now. So let's see. I was last here on Tuesday morning of, what was that? Today's Friday, so Tuesday was like the 6th or something, let's say. Tuesday was the 5th, I think. So 5th. So add 5 weeks, that's 35 days. So that would be December 40th minus 31. So it's January 9th. I'm not going to be back here until January 9th. Okay. Now, my question is, will there be more grass here on January 9th? And I think the answer is yes, there'll be a little more. Second question is, if I graze this again on January 9th, will it be worse off? Will I say, oh man, I shouldn't have done that? I don't think so. Okay, so the reason why I'm rotating right now is because I believe that I'm leaving enough grass behind. If I believe that I'm not leaving enough grass behind, that the cows are scalping my field, that they're eating the grass down to the dirt, okay, then in that case alone pretty much, and I can't give them more land, I can't rotate more quickly, right, because the grass doesn't recover fast enough, then in that case what I do is I put them on a sacrificial piece of ground. I rotate them through that land to kind of keep the parasite count down. So probably 4 rotations of, 3 days. I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe 5 rotations, of 6 days or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out, right? But I'm basically going to take a 1/6 of my field, an 1/8, something like that, and they're going to destroy that field. They're going to eat the grass to the ground. They're going to get hay. They're going to hate it. They're going to lose weight. My cows are going to complain. They're going to moo at me every morning about how I'm such a terrible rancher and I don't know what I'm doing. But the rest of my field will be getting that much needed rest. And only when I can graze, confident that I'm going to leave lots of grass behind, then I start rotating again. Okay, and obviously with that sacrificial piece of land, I have to give that piece of land maybe a whole year to recover. So right now, the current state of the field is we're grazing. I think I'll get some growth before they come back here in 5 weeks, in 1 month, and 1 month and whatever, right? I think that I'm moving fast enough, and not too slowly that I'm hurting the ground too much. I think the hay is keeping them full, taking pressure off the grass, especially on the western part of the field where there's a lot less grass. Okay, and I think I don't need to pin them up, okay? But, if I start looking at the ground and I see dirt, like down here, can you see any dirt? I really can't see much dirt, not bare ground, at least. I just see vegetable. Okay, here we go. There's some dirt. Yeah, around the anthill, that's dirt, right? If my ground was looking like this, I'd say, no, we're not grazing anymore. There's nothing to eat. There's nothing to leave behind, right? And so we just have to pin them up, okay? And maybe if I don't have enough land to pin them up, I pin them up and feed them worming medicine, knowing that they're going to be eating their own poo and drinking their own pee, and it's unavoidable, Or another option, I sell all the cows. I wait until spring and then buy other cows, right? That's probably a bad way to lose money, right? Buy low, sell high, right? Anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking. That's what I'm doing. I hope you guys, if you have different suggestions, I know some of you guys said I need to go more slowly, tighter spaces. Some of you guys have said go more quickly, but that's kind of my consideration. That's what I'm thinking. So anyway, leave a comment. I'm interested in what you guys have to think about this. Have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.